rising fuel prices, soaring food costs, corruption scandals, and a series of deadly encounters with law enforcement. These burdens pushed thousands of ordinary Kenyans into the streets, tired, angry, and desperate for change. But no one could have predicted what came next, a spontaneous, unprecedented act of defiance from the very institution meant to uphold the state's authority. The police. For decades, Kenya's riot police acted with unquestioned loyalty to the political elite. Flashback to the 2007 to 2008 post-election violence, or the extrajudicial killings in informal settlements, the narrative was always the same: force first, questions later. But this time, in the midst of escalating protests, something unthinkable happened. Officers refused orders. It wasn't just hesitation. It was refusal in plain sight, caught on citizen cameras and broadcast across the world. At one protest site, a commanding voice was heard over the noise. "We will not shoot our people." Cheers erupted from protesters who, seconds earlier, had braced for gunfire. The scene spread online like wildfire. In minutes, images of officers lowering their weapons instead of firing into crowds stunned both locals and international observers. The Kenyan government, blindsided, scrambled to regain control. In rushed statements, officials claimed there had never been an order to shoot to incapacitate. Footage was dismissed as taken out of context. But that couldn't reverse what had already happened and what it symbolized. According to independent human rights organizations, the shoot order was real. Not only that, but similar directives reportedly surfaced in other African countries confronting growing dissent. So what changed this time? The answer lies in a shift years in the making. This wasn't a rebellion driven solely by emotion. Many of these officers were younger recruits, trained under reformed policing programs designed to emphasize restraint, community engagement, and non-lethal methods. They had been told policing was about service, not suppression. Receiving an abrupt, uncompromising command to target civilians at close range challenged the very oath they had taken. To protect life. One officer confided anonymously to local media. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't a caution. It was a command. It felt like history repeating itself, and we refused to be part of it. Legal experts backed them up. Under Kenyan law and international conventions, lethal force can be used only when someone's life is in imminent danger. Protesters blocking roads or vandalizing property don't meet that threshold. Shooting them in the legs, despite claims it's non-lethal, still constitutes use of deadly force under many legal definitions. And now, thanks to digital activism and live-streamed resistance, accountability is no longer theoretical. The world is watching. But perhaps the most compelling part of this story lies in the influence of a single idea, an idea that's been spreading across borders. Enter Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader of Burkina Faso. Rising to power with a promise never to shed the blood of his people to stay in office, Traoré has redefined what leadership can look like in Africa. His words, and more importantly, his actions, have become rallying cries among a generation weary of political violence. When Kenyan officers refused those orders, social media exploded with mentions of Traoré. Hashtags like #TraoréEffect and #ProtectNotPunish began trending immediately. Youthful protesters waved placards referencing Burkina Faso, a nation thousands of kilometers away, proof that inspiration no longer obeys geography. Though those officers likely didn't act because of Traoré, they're still part of a growing alignment, a continental shift in philosophy. One that says, real strength lies in refusing to harm your own. That public trust is a better defense than rubber bullets. That law enforcement can serve the people, not political ambition. Protesters across Kenya sensed this shift immediately. In a country where the police are typically viewed with mistrust or outright fear, the refusal created something rare: hope. It introduced the idea that behind the riot gear and shields, there may be room for empathy, for humanity. This wasn't just about avoiding violence. It was about dignity, about choosing conscience over career. Because make no mistake, those officers risked everything. Disobeying direct orders in any security institution is dangerous. It's insubordination. It can lead to suspension, dismissal, or worse. Yet these officers chose to obey a higher law, the moral one. Even within high-ranking police circles, uncertainty was growing. Leaked reports described heated debates amongst Kenya's top commanders. Some questioned the optics of armed force against unarmed citizens. Others feared the risk of individual prosecution if camera footage showed excessive force. Unlike past decades, young officers today live in the age of smartphones and viral videos. Accountability is fast, global, and sometimes permanent. Still, within government circles, the act was viewed as borderline mutiny. Certain politicians hinted publicly at re-establishing discipline, calling the refusal a dangerous breach of command structures. But others, especially within civil society, saw it as long overdue progress, a glimpse of what a truly democratic, people-centered police service might look like. For years, Kenya has declared its commitment to reforming law enforcement. Global watchdogs, donor-funded initiatives, and press statements have emphasized professionalizing the force, making it less politicized, more neutral, more accountable. But on the ground, the gap between theory and practice remained wide. Until now, this refusal made reform visible. It reframed the narrative from one of endless reports and broken promises to actual lived change. Even if small, even if isolated, it sent a signal. Change is not only possible, it's happening. Those who led the protests also changed. They no longer saw the police purely as instruments of brutality. For the first time in memory, there was a flash of solidarity. Activists began addressing officers differently. They didn't just demand restraint. They thanked them when it came. Some groups shifted their strategy entirely, from confronting officers to engaging them. A few protesters even left flowers at police lines in quieter moments, signaling mutual respect. International observers took note. Across the continent and beyond, human rights advocates praised the Kenyan police refusal as a rare case of moral courage. They framed it as an example of what policing across Africa could become: ethical, responsive, and grounded in constitutional order, not personal loyalty to power. Yet, not everyone celebrates. Some African governments see the refusal as a threat. What if this spreads? What if security forces in other countries begin to question orders too? The traditional model, where police enforce control at any cost without question, is fast becoming unsustainable. But in rejecting it, countries also face a new challenge: how to secure the state without repressing the people. That's the fine line now before African governments, including Kenya's. The easy path is to clamp down, reassert obedience, punish dissent within the ranks. The harder, more transformative path is to lean into this shift. Train police not just as enforcers, but as guardians of public trust. Embrace a model where refusal to harm civilians is a sign of strength, not weakness. The ripple effect has already begun. Police officers in Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, even Zimbabwe, are reportedly discussing the Kenyan moment in private forums. Posts are circulating. Debates are unfolding. The question they're asking is profound and dangerous in equal measure. Who do we really serve, the state or the people? That simple question could redefine African states in the years to come. Because a security institution that places people above politics doesn't just protect rights. It protects legitimacy. Of course, change doesn't come easy. Authoritarian reflexes still hold sway in many places. Some governments may tighten laws, create elite security units, or target dissenting officers to prevent future refusals. There will be pushback. But events like this one create cracks in a long-standing culture of fear. And through those cracks, light enters. The Kenya incident may not have been a revolution, but it was a revelation that it showed what's possible when police refuse to be instruments of repression. It hinted that the next chapter of Africa's story may be shaped not only by politicians and parties, but by those wearing uniforms, if they choose people over power. So the question now is not just what will happen in Kenya, but what will happen elsewhere. Will more officers follow this path? Will civilian movements and governments recognize the opportunity for a new relationship? Will Traoré's philosophy, leadership through protection, not persecution, continue to resonate? In a world so used to conflict between civilians and police, this moment in Kenya forces us to imagine something different, something human, something hopeful. The line between power and the people just got a little thinner, and in that gap lies the future of African democracy. Let us know what you think. Is this the dawn of a new era in African policing? Could other forces across the continent follow Kenya's lead? Share your thoughts in the comments.